There we go.
And here we go. Oh dear, right. Not a happy evening for Wrexham. We've dropped into the relegation zone. So, if you want to fire some questions off at us about the match, Lee's had to go. We had Lee Fowler commentating with us, but real frustration for Wrexham. We lost 1-0 basically in a match which saw us start extremely well and then concede a goal completely against run of play in the 32nd minute. Michael Chambers' own goal, mix up between him and Rob Laington, unnecessary goal to concede. At that point, Chesterfield just had no threat whatsoever, and well, we paid the price, didn't we? And didn't really get our mojo back after that, to be in all honesty.
No, it's a frustrating game from that point on, wasn't it? As Leaf told us on air, we just seemed to revert to type. We stopped playing the nice little passes we were playing, little passages of play. Instead, the defence started sitting deeper, which is the last thing you want when you're chasing a game. They were just punting long balls up, and Jason Oswald's got absolutely no change out of the strikers today. Bobby Grant, very little time mentioned it on there, that second half we barely saw Bobby Grant involved. The game just seemed to bypass him, and when he's the focal point of your attack, that's a big concern. And yeah, frustrating day, and another own goal. Something we didn't address this. Chambers has scored one now, Lawler the other week, we've had Sean Pearson, that last minute own goal, Luke Young with a bizarre one where he's put it in. Something's just not right, is it, unfortunately?
Yeah, those sort of things are hard to put your finger on, aren't they?
Yeah.
There's no pattern to it. It's just happening, but it's not good.
Yeah.
There's CXC saying, worst game of the season performance-wise? I don't think it was.
No, I'd certainly offer up the Hartlepool game of the games I've seen. That was another one, though, where we started brightly. I remember being on air at Hartlepool with Carl and saying, in a minute this is going to click, this is looking good.
Yeah.
It didn't click that day, and it's simply not clicked since, has it? And it is getting frustrating, and I think it comes down to something that David Forrest is just saying. They're saying the level of signing, in hindsight, Barnum, Bob and Chambers, the two he's picked out, which they've come up, both of them from the National League South last season. You look at the players they've replaced in Kevin Roberts and Kieran Kennedy. Kevin Roberts is playing in the National League North, and to me, I understand. I didn't see too much of him in Keats in the first season he was here, so I do have a different view to a lot of other people. I was living away at the time, so I didn't get to see him so often. And I always preferred Carrington at right back. He's my second choice, so I always felt like Kevin Roberts needed replacing. Have we replaced him with somebody better? The evidence says no. Chambers at the back, he's come in, he scored the own goal today, a few loose touches, and he looked a commanding presence in pre-season against Fleetwood, but it's very easy against a team at the start of pre-season, isn't it? Especially when you're on trial trying to impress. And Kieran Kennedy, he's gone into the Football League. I was very impressed with him last season, very disappointed we couldn't sign him. Fully understand why Port Vale have signed him, and our loss, has been very much a big loss at the back so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just flicking through the programme to see other bad performances. We followed Hartlepool, of course, with that first half against Stockport, which was awful. And I bet like this one, letting bad goals in was a kick in the teeth, which affected our morale and our performance, I think, as well. I can be consistent with this. I've said all along that people were talking about what a great squad we'd put together, and I've been saying all along that Hooper to me is the one summer signing that impresses me. Really, I'm not necessarily selling them all straight down the river. Harris is a prospect, but I keep saying that he's fading a little bit, which is natural.
Yeah,
he's a young lad on loan.
I'm wondering as well what role Harris is going to have in this team. We know Dean Keats likes this 4-4-2 diamond formation, that it's two central midfielders playing wide. It's the 4-3-3, the 3-4-3. That suited a wide striker, which Harris seems to be, Ben Tollett seems to be. And you look at this team and wonder where they're going to slot in if they do come back in that system, because especially when it was Harris and Grant, Harris just wasn't getting the possession up there as a central striker. He's done well coming off the bench, even starting and moving inside. He scored that really good goal in the midweek game against Halifax that we won. That was when he was playing centrally. But generally, he's a player that likes to come in off the wing, and there doesn't seem to be that space for him in the team at the moment.
No, I feel I have sympathy for Keats, who is inheriting again, and I think this was, to me, one of the big things I took from this match was that you just look at it and you think there has to be change.
Yeah.
There's not an entire 11 here. Now, to be fair, there were some players that are injured, but still, there's not an entire 11. There are areas of weakness which he needs to address. The problem is, it might be harder this time to shift players on. Danny Dyer, who was saying at the top, we're going down. Don't panic yet, Danny. Don't panic yet. But he did say probably 10 of the players need the boot. Fresh heads is a must. I wouldn't go as high as 10, but if you reduce that number down a bit, I do think, yes, there needs to be a refresh in the changing room. And the one big hope here is that Keith's already done that very well.
Again, I wouldn't say 10 players. There are certainly positions that we need to improve. There are some players that, the likes of Adam Barton, for example, who I said this before on air, that I didn't see the game against Aldershot where I know he frustrated you because of the slow pace and the possession. There are little elements of it, but to me, he looks like somebody who could improve if he's put in the right system. So where we're improving, it's not necessarily new players, it's also improvements in those positions. Do we get that by bringing in extra competition? Probably. He's going to have to raise his standards if he gets someone else in there. The important thing is that with hindsight, we can say we didn't do in the summer. We have to improve all these positions.
Yeah.
As I, to my mind, I'd have said, yeah, fair enough, getting rid of Kevin Roberts. He wasn't my first choice of right back. We just haven't brought in a better one. Yeah. And there are other areas of the pitch where you'd say the same thing. As Kieran Kennedy's an exception. He'd gone into the Football League, and to be fair, I don't think we really got the best of him through our own fault. We didn't play him under Graham Barrow for so long when he came in. Other players to have left, like Stuart Bevan, for example, excellent work rate, can't fault the man. Really good guy to be around, but he wasn't a goal scorer. We had to bring in players to be better than him. Hooper probably is that. We just haven't seen too much of him, in all fairness. And you look at other areas of the pitch, Devontae Redmond's just not managed to impose himself on the game. So there's another area where our options now look weaker than they were before, and it's just, it gets frustrating. Danny Dyer, you two bring your boots, just tell Keith your position. Well, I'm a right back, so I think I'm very much in for a shout for Saturday's game.
Yeah, I was a goalkeeper, so I don't think there's such a great need to draft me in. Although, Dean, I am available for selection. If you really want to get sacked. So, I don't know. CXC as well saying, do you think we're in risk of relegation? I can't see it. As if we were doing poorly in January, I could see us spending big to stay up. I have mixed feelings about this, but I'm cautious about what I feel about it. I think this squad shouldn't be in danger of going down, and I think Dean Keats will improve it, and I think Dean Keats is the right person to turn things around. So I'm not pressing any panic buttons yet. I mean, I was saying actually just before we went on air, was like Solihull were pretty much the same position as us when we played them in the league, and look at them now, they're in the playoffs. So I'm not, a few wins will turn us around quickly. But I do accept as well that things spiral out of control quite quickly, and you can find yourself thinking, okay, it's not clicking yet, don't worry, we'll turn it around. But we're now in the bottom four, and we can't afford to stay in that bottom four. We need to address the relegation issue before we can go on any further. So I am confident Keats will get us out of there, but we can't be complacent about this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we can't pretend now that we're not in a relegation battle. We're in the bottom four, and we're a couple of months into the season now. It's definitely a relegation battle, but at the same time, am I worried personally? No, because as you said, things will turn around very quickly. We're in a relegation battle, but at this stage of the season, I still feel like 4 or 5 wins, and then you're looking mid-table. Probably now the gap is opening a bit up too much to the playoffs with 4 or 5 wins, but we have the core of the team from last season that won so many games, and we've just got to get that clicking. As you said, things can spiral out of hand very quickly. If we go into December, January, and we're still down here, then absolutely, you'll be getting worried. And I am worried. It's not nice looking at the league table, seeing Wrexham down there. Likewise, I'm sure the File fans are saying the same, Chesterfield as well. None of us expected to be in this situation. Yeah. And when you see Chesterfield playing, as they did say, they didn't look like a team who should be challenging for promotion. They look like a team who are deservedly fighting for relegation, but they've beaten us 1-0. Yeah. And that will increase worry. 5 or 6 wins, what planet is he on? That's the simple fact is 5 or 6 wins will deliver us up the table. I don't know where we're going to get those wins from, which I think is what Lyndon Lloyd is getting at there. That's fair enough. On this performance, 5 or 6 more of these performances, and it will be the panic button. I'm not going to pretend that. It's just the question was, do we feel we're at risk of it? We're at risk while we're down there. We're in a relegation fight. I would say I'd be more worried if now was December, because we have just got a new manager in. He's going to learn a lot from players in a defeat like this. There are a lot of players who have had the chance to show what they can do, and they've simply not done it.
Yeah, I was looking the other day at what happened when Keats first came in, because his first 2 games, of course, were those cup ties against Stanford. And I was looking at the 16 players he used over those 2 matches. Of those 16 players, 9 of them did not see out the season, so he shifted a lot of the players he had to pick out very quickly. And of the entire 16, only Carrington remained the next season. That's quite a turnover. He's not going to be able to do that this time, but I don't think he needs to either.
No.
But he does know how to move players on. David Forrester asking an interesting question: do we have the budget to bring 2 or 3 in as soon as possible? My understanding of this is that some money will be released for Keats, but the budget was substantially spent in the summer, and of course that is the issue there, isn't it? Whether it's been spent well.
We made a lot of signings, and that's the point. A National League club can't afford to have a squad this big and then add to it. You are going to have to clear players out. I think that's the problem at the moment, isn't it?
So yeah, I think he's been allowed a small amount, but he's going to have to wheel and deal, I think, in order to make any substantial changes. But hopefully he's able to do that. Danny Dyer, interesting point there. I think Wrexham have lost fans now. Every time in the paper, let's do it for the fans. Come on, get real. I think it's difficult, isn't it? In that, what do players? What can they say in a way?
Yeah.
I think the alternative would be, okay, they could start really calling things out in the media, and then they'd be criticised for maybe causing disruption. So I think that they're in a sort of no-win situation, to be honest.
There's things that are best said in the changing room, aren't there? And I don't think, to be fair, they're saying, let's do it with fans, get real. I think a lot of the message is very clear. People do come to this club to play for the fans. You can't not. We are one of the biggest clubs in the league, regardless of league position. We're sat here in one of the biggest stadiums with really good support, even when we're struggling. It was 3,000, that's down on Wrexham's gate, of course it is. That's still a lot more than a lot of other teams will be getting in this league. And they are in a no-win situation. But I also think what they are saying is genuine. A lot of people, when I did the interview with Sean Pearson, where he came out and said Brian Hughes had the full backing of the players. I'm not in a position to say, tell me this. I asked him a question, what's the feeling in the dressing room? And that was when he told me the meeting had gone on and that the players were fully behind him. I have every reason to believe that what they're saying is genuine, but at the same time I also understand, and it's something Lee Fowler said, wasn't it, that he's reading stuff in the paper and not seeing the action out on the pitch. The only way we're going to win fans over is putting it out on the pitch, and it's a very fair comment.
Yeah, it's a bit like, to change the subject in a way, it's a bit like the build-up to that England-Bulgaria game, isn't it? Where Mikhailov, the Bulgarian FA's chief, is saying that Southgate's insulting the nation by assuming we're all racists. And Southgate, who tends to be very good at fighting fires, spoke very well on a press conference after that and said, well, what happened there was I was asked a direct question about what we'd do if we walked off the pitch, because if there was racial abuse, which he was not intending to bring up at all, but he answered the question because that's what he's there for. And he said, if there is racial abuse in the match, this is what we'll do, which is then twisted into Southgate says Bulgarians are racist. That is how the dynamic tends to happen after a match, inevitably, because newspapers will look to draw something out of a press conference and have an angle, and maybe sometimes it's mischief. I don't think players are going to tend to say the similar sorts of things in these situations because it's tricky for them.
Players understanding, sharing the fans' frustrations, and he shot us down straight away. Of course we are. These people are playing for the club. These people know what the club are about, especially the ones that were here last year and the ones that have been here even longer. When you look at people like Carrington, Rufford, Jennings, and it hurts them as much as it hurts us as fans. But again, as I said, the only way to put things right, the only way they can put things right, it's all well and good putting the effort in. We also need results, and results are the problem at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely right. I was just checking then, because David Forrester was asking what was the gate. I didn't catch it, actually. I'll call it now. It's 3479. Only 147 fans from Chesterfield, though, so we're getting about 3,300 Wrexham fans. So, that's remarkable and admirable. Lyndon Lloyd says, why is a club with 5,000 fans not competitive in this division of average crowds of 1750 in the National League? Well, we have to spend that money well. We didn't spend that money well in the summer, and we haven't built on something which, the foundations that we had. I don't know, Danny Dyer worrying that we're going to lose our best players, Pearson, Young, Summerfield. I'm not sure that's on the agenda, really.
No,
I wouldn't have thought.
I can't imagine at this point. No, there are players to move on. People are going to... The new manager's only just come in. We've got to remember this, that he's got a lot of time to put his stamp on it. And, I don't get the impression for people like Pearson, Young and Summerfield that they're just going to drop tools and walk away. There's a long way to go in this season, and these are key players for the club at the end of the day. They know they've got a big leadership role to play in that dressing room. And I think the general feeling when, before kick-off today, the whole place seemed a bit more positive. The new manager, as it always does, had brought a new positivity to it. Got a good result. It should have been a better result in Dean Keats' first game, but nevertheless a point. It gave us a platform. A win against St Mirren Colts. It was only St Mirren Colts, but it was still a win based on a good second-half performance. People are buying into what Dean Keats and Andy Davis have brought back. The formation seems to be working. The problem was, we've conceded a sloppy goal today. Heads went down, and that's the issue to me. I'd say I'm certainly not getting the vibe from the dressing room that people want out. There's things that need changing. It'd be naive to pretend otherwise. That something's not right down there. And clearly bringing better players is the best way to deal with that. That gives everyone a lift. Hopefully we have the manager, as you said, to do that. He did a very good job of it last time, and I'm sure that was on people's mind when he was appointed as manager.
Something's not right down there, a sentence you never want to hear in any context, really, I would argue. Anthony Roberts saying needs to give McIntosh a go. He played well at the weekend. I have reservations about McIntosh, but after that game, like I said, turned on Chambers' own goal. And after that, we really had very little up front. Now, how much of that we want to say about, whether it's poor service or whether it's, lack of impact up front from the strikers. Oswald's not had the best couple of games under Flynn, Keats, I would argue. I don't know. I mean, the other note of caution I would say about the weekend, although I enjoyed the game very much, is that St Mirren were an under-21 team, but actually their average age was 18. And so that helped, say, our youth players because they were roughly the same age as them. It helped McIntosh because
he was a senior player,
So
you can only beat what's in front of you.
Oh yeah.
And he did impress, to be fair. He put himself about, and he looked a lot more physical than he has done, because for a player who looks like he should have the attributes to hold the ball up, he hasn't done it too often. The problem is exactly that. He hasn't done it often against what essentially adult teams, to put it in bluntest terms. Against full professional players, he hasn't shown often enough those attributes. The game against Hartlepool that we talked about before turned on JJ Hooper getting injured and McIntosh coming on and just simply not being a replacement. And as you said, Oswald, who's had a good run in the team and seems to be playing well, putting real shift in, just seemed frustrated today. And there's a couple of instances where him and Bobby Grant have had some, public shouting matches on the pitch. That happens, It's, I'm not saying there's anything untoward in anything they were doing. It's a case of wanting players to be in other positions on the pitch. You're not going to go and have a quiet chat with your arm around him when it's the heat of battle, are you? But at the same time, again, it's a sign of something, again, not quite right. And it's a shame because he had a good run in the team with Hooper being out, and he looked towards the end of it like he was really making an impact. But I do agree with you that the last couple of games, it's just not happened for him. Likewise, a few other players who I think Dean Keats will be looking at. I'm not saying Oswald's one of these. I think he still has something to offer, but there'll be plenty of players out there that Dean Keats will now surely know enough about to know who's going to take us forward and who's not.
I suspect so. Edward Hughes asking us if it's worth trying any of the youth at this point. Well, part of me thinks that the two obvious ones are Thorne and Sargent, who are out on loan.
I'd have liked to have seen Dougie Thorne play today.
Yeah.
He wasn't at his best at the weekend.
No.
But it's his first game since the last round of the Scottish Challenge Cup, and I can understand him getting frustrated. He's been brought back from his loan spell by Brian Hughes, played one game and played very well in that one game, then found himself out the team. And I can understand why he'd be getting frustrated, but simple match fitness. You've got to be playing games, and I think I'd have put him in ahead of probably Chambers today, because I think he's got a smart head on his shoulders and he looks a good player. Sargent and Thorne, again, the two obvious ones. The other lads that have been coming through, Matty Jones, for example, I think he's an excellent player. I've been really impressed with him in the youth team, and the link up with Tollett for the goal. But he's a very slight player, and in this level, this sort of battles, I think we need to wait for him to develop physically before he's ready to be making an impact in the first team. And that goes for a lot of players down there. Their performances are good, certainly very positive signs, but I think there's a lot of physical development that needs to be done before they can come into games like this against a team like Chesterfield that would have bullied them, simply.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we were saying again this off air, weren't we, that I feel there's a real promise in that youth team, but they're all about a year off really being ready for this sort of scrap. And I think Danny Dyer is referring to that, saying we shouldn't pick young lads, we're fighting to stay up. It doesn't mean you can't use the occasional young player, but I think those lads, it's not quite time for them yet. I mean, for example, I thought the Clevers did well on Saturday. He wouldn't do well against Denton.
No.
So, that sort of
and that's no disrespect to him. It's simple science, isn't it?
He's pleased me. He's clever, and he's got something about him. But he's not ready for that sort of thing. Other points, Josh Smith said, what's happened to Wrexham track? Don't worry, I'm just a bit short on time at the moment. There's all these flaming midweek matches in the way. I have done a Woking one, but I haven't finished editing it yet. It's odd. Okay, that's all I can say. It's odd.
Are they ever not?
Well, thank you very much. I'll take that as a compliment. David Forrest was saying Lee Fowler came across very well. Very astute football brain. Talked through tactics and solutions. He's a good listen. He could offer the club something. I know Dean Keats is always somebody who listens to a wide range of people. I think he's not daft. So,
no, not at all. It showed the merits of having someone up here in the stand as well, didn't it? So many times Lee was pointing out to us, pockets of space open up on the pitch, players need to be doing something. So often, it proved right. You can see a lot from up here. People say, why was Brian Flynn always sitting in the stand? Well, we get a good view from up here, and I think that struck me, Lee Fowler spoke very well, and he certainly had ideas that looked like they would work if they'd been put into practice. I wonder whether we need to get somebody back up in the stands surveying things from a distance again.
Yeah, because Carl Darlington's down the side now, I think, isn't
he? He has been.
Peter Higgins is an interesting question. He says, can we use the cup draws of games to try a few players, some young players, I guess, maybe better league opposition to see how they go? Agreed, but ironically, this results, and despite the fact that we need to prioritise the lead more than the cup, I think makes it less likely we'll experiment, because we need to get the confidence going, and win is a win. And I think, if we won this match and we're out of the, we've got a couple of points clear of relegation, we're feeling confident, possibly you might think, I might try one or two, but now I think he's thinking, right, we need to win on Saturday here, and we need a win to get things turning around.
There'll be things that were obvious out there that need changing before that game against the same opposition. We can't play in the same way because it didn't work. It was simple as that. As we said, Oswald didn't get a sniff from their centre halves. I'm sure the tactics will change, but I think you're right that it's tempting to try more players. But he's had the opportunity with St Mirren. He was able to rotate the squad for that. Maybe we might see a few unusual faces on the bench. We've certainly got 2 extra places to fill. That's true. Know that.
Yeah.
But I would expect a full-strength team against what I would expect to be a full-strength Chesterfield team as well. We are both at the wrong end of the table. We both have a very proud history in that competition. I don't like treating it as a secondary competition. It's the Premier Cup competition in England, and as far as I'm concerned, I'd like to see us put a team out that's going to win it. Yes, it means extra fixtures, but the 4th qualifying round was always going to be that, and I believe the first round's boxed off as well in the calendar, so it's not like we lose anything from being in those 2 games at the very least.
The second round is as well, isn't
it? You could possibly be right there.
I think we'll go at it pretty serious. It might be the odd alteration, but Farm coming in, that seems reasonable to me. Somebody earlier on was saying they weren't happy with Jazzy Barn and Bob today. Well, until Carrington's fit, unless we
use Farm again,
then there's no real other option there. I think there might not be too many changes. Right, hang on a second.
These are good questions, I think.
Tardude's saying, I try to be as positive as I can about Wrexham, but just sometimes it's hard. Damn right, mate. Hey, look at this grey hair. Look how old I am. I remember the 80s. The 80s were not nice, believe me. And when we beat Arsenal, I thought, right, it was worth 10 years of suffering because I just experienced that. But Yeah, the 80s weren't good. Our lowest 10 average attendances of all time are the 10 seasons of the 80s. Not good. Not good. Right, okay, what other questions have we got? Decent looking at the games you've played, there's a chance of relegation. There's Love Horses for life.
And the same question almost from Lyndon Lloyd.
Yeah, Lyndon Lloyd. Do you gents look at our team and think this team will go down if nothing has changed very quickly?
We kind of touched on it before, didn't we? Yes, looking at the team, if nothing changes, well, you can't put performances in like tonight and expect things to magically fix themselves. Something has to change out there, personnel-wise, possibly, almost probably, tactical-wise as well, possibly. I just don't think the tactics worked as well today, and we need to make sure we've got a better plan B, which we didn't seem to have today. Something has to change, there's no question of that. But, as I alluded to before, I'm confident that we have the people in place to make those changes, be it new people coming in, shifting players out, being able to assess what's wrong. Everything felt a lot more positive before tonight. And it is difficult right now. Tadu said exactly that. It's tough. It's not nice watching your team lose. It's certainly not nice watching your team lose to a team down the bottom of the table that put you in a relegation zone. It's not a pleasant place to be. But I still feel, as I felt before the game, things were seeming a lot more positive around here, and I just hope that we can get back to that quickly. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to be a bit sort of, I don't know, Lyndon's question. I'm going to say that in a way it's an impossible situation to have, because this team will change. There's no question about that. I know that Keats coming in felt that. He'd seen our matches, he felt that, and let's be honest, nothing's happened since to change that opinion. No. I'll refer back to what I said at the start. I've been saying all season, I'm not sure about this squad, so I've always thought this side needs to change. If nothing changed, would it go down is a different question, I think, because it will change, if you see what I'm saying. I think it would scrape staying up as things are at the moment, but then, as I said, I keep saying, things can go into a spiral, and as confidence dips further and further, if it's not altered, so there has to be changes for that reason as well. Danny Dyer is saying, Wrexham FC is turning me into an alcoholic. Oh, dear me, I'm just going to get shares in Wrexham Lager, and I'll be back. Hey, we have ups and we have downs. That's football. That's the nature of the thing. That's the great soap opera of football, right? Don't panic, folks. Don't panic, all right? Changes will be made, and let's see how it goes. It's a long season. That sounds very profound. Was that a nice way to end that? It probably was, I think, wasn't it? Yeah, absolutely. So thanks, guys, for really great questions. It was difficult tonight. I think it's difficult to be reasonable tonight. It's frustrating, but this sort of conversation is made by you, and that was a really interesting debate, I thought. I think the mood is better, as you say, around the club now than it was a couple of weeks ago. People can see it's not right, but better steps have been made to try and deal with things. So I think that's it's a positive thing, and I really enjoyed that. That was good, that. But unlike the match. Happy to end on that note. Thank you very much for joining us. Nice one.